Part 1. Teach woman do ho Ralph Raldanambos. The first thing Evelyn Hart heard after leaving the ballroom was silence. For 3 hours, the Hart family mansion had been filled with music, champagne, cameras, and carefully chosen smiles. Investors had arrived from 3 countries. Politicians had shaken her father's hand. Old family friends had whispered about Evelyn's future as if she were an expensive painting that had already been sold. Her father called it a celebration. Evelyn called it a cage with crystal chandeliers. She had just turned 27, and everyone had decided that this was the year she should stop pretending she wanted a life of her own. At the end of the night, her father had raised a glass and announced a business partnership between Hart Meridian and the wealthy Voss family. Then he had smiled at Evelyn. Your engagement will be announced next month. The room had applauded. Evelyn had smiled because she had learned to smile when she wanted to scream. She waited until the speeches began again, slipped through a service corridor, changed out of her silver heels, and stole the keys to an old black sedan from the garage. She did not know where she was going. She only knew that she wanted one night in which nobody knew her name. Rain began halfway downtown. Evelyn drove past glass towers and expensive restaurants until the city changed. The streets became narrower. Neon signs flickered over old mechanic shops. Music came from basement clubs. Motorcycles lined the sidewalks like dark metal animals. She should have turned around. Instead, she kept driving. Across town, a man named Roman Vale was standing beneath a broken street lamp, watching his crew close a warehouse for the night. Roman was 32 and had become a legend without ever asking to be one. People called him the Black King, though he laughed whenever he heard it. He did not own a throne. He owned a repair shop, several legal transport businesses, and the loyalty of men who had spent too many years being betrayed by people they trusted. His reputation had been built during a decade of street races, protection jobs, and brutal territorial wars that he had long since abandoned. Roman had one rule: no innocent person paid for another person's war. That rule was tested that night when Evelyn's sedan crossed a private road marked with a red warning sign. A motorcycle moved into her lane. She slammed on the brakes. The car stopped inches from him. Roman removed his helmet. Rain ran down his black jacket. You lost, he asked. Evelyn stared through the windshield. Apparently. Roman glanced at the expensive sedan. You should not be here. Neither should you. A faint smile appeared on his face. Most people lowered their eyes when Roman spoke to them. Evelyn did not. He walked toward her window. Do you always answer strangers like that? Only the ones who block my road, Roman laughed. It was the first time anyone had made him laugh that night. Evelyn rolled the window down another inch. I am leaving. You are sitting in a car with a dead battery. She looked down. The dashboard was dark. You are kidding? No? Roman opened the hood. He did not ask permission. Evelyn got out, holding her coat over her head. You fix cars? I fix many things. Can you fix this? Roman looked at her. Not yet. The answer should have annoyed her. Instead, it made her curious. He repaired the battery cable while Rain covered the rod. When the engine finally started, Evelyn expected him to step away. He did. Then she noticed a bruise across his knuckles. Are you hurt? Roman looked at his hand. Not tonight. She studied him. He studied her. Neither knew it yet. But the most dangerous thing about their meeting was not the road, the rain, or the neighborhood. It was recognition. They were both trapped. They were simply trapped in different kinds of cages. Evelyn returned to the mansion before dawn. Roman returned to the warehouse. Neither slept. And for the first time in years, both of them wondered what would happen if they met again. They did not know that someone else had already noticed. From a dark vehicle across the street, a man photographed Evelyn's license plate. He sent the image to an unknown number. The reply came almost immediately. Cape Way Tihanhar. The man looked toward Roman's warehouse. He sent another message. A&E Tiamto. Something had begun. Neither the Queen of the Golden House nor the King of the Midnight Roads knew they had just stepped onto the same battlefield. Evelyn had spent years learning how to disappear inside a crowded room. At school, she was the daughter of Richard Hart. At charity events, she was the Hart heiress. At company meetings, she was the future of the dynasty. Even when she visited a bookstore alone, somebody usually recognized her. The drive into Roman's district had been the first time in years that nobody had looked at her with admiration or expectation. That was why she noticed the difference immediately. Roman looked at her as if her surname were an inconvenience. He did not flatter her. He did not ask about her family. He did not ask how much money she had. He asked whether she was lost. The question stayed in her mind after she returned home. The next morning, Evelyn stood in front of her wardrobe for 20 minutes and realized she was still thinking about a stranger in a black jacket. She hated that. At breakfast, her mother discussed floral arrangements for the engagement dinner. Do you want white roses or champagne roses? Evelyn pushed a piece of toast around her plate. Neither her mother sighed. This is important. So is my life. Her father entered the room. Your life is exactly what we are discussing. Nut, you are discussing the version of my life that makes your shareholders comfortable. Her father put down his newspaper. You will understand when you are older. I am 27. Exactly. The conversation ended there. Later that day, Evelyn went to the company headquarters. She sat through a meeting about a new logistics corridor. Every graph looked perfect. Every executive smiled. But when one manager mentioned a warehouse near Blackwater, Evelyn remembered Roman's face. She had no idea why. Across town, Roman was thinking about her too. His mechanic, Theo, noticed. You are smiling. I am not. A Roman threw a rag at him. Theo laughed. Who is she? No one. Nobody makes you stare at a wall for 10 minutes. Roman looked at the repaired motorcycle in front of him. She is trouble. Theo nodded. That sounds worse. it is. Roman had learned early that trouble often arrived wearing a beautiful face. His father had trusted the wrong people. His brother had tried to expose them. Roman had spent years paying for decisions he had not made. He had sworn never to let personal feelings interfere again. Then Evelyn had appeared. She did not look like the kind of woman who belonged near him. That should have made it easier to forget her. Instead, it made him remember her more clearly. 3 days later, when her car appeared outside the shop, Roman knew the war inside his own head had already begun, and somewhere behind the city lights, the people who wanted both families under their control had begun watching. That was the hidden danger of their first meeting. Not attraction, not money, not class, timing. They had met at exactly the moment when both of their worlds were beginning to collapse. The night after their first meeting, Evelyn stood on her balcony and watched the rain. She wondered what kind of man repaired a stranger's car without asking for money. She wondered why his eyes looked tired. Most of all, she wondered why she had felt safer beside a dangerous stranger than inside her own home. Roman had his own questions. Who was the woman brave enough to enter his neighborhood alone? Why had she looked relieved when nobody recognized her? And why had the sound of her laughter followed him long after she left? Neither had answers. But both understood that some meetings felt like accidents only because people had not yet discovered the reason behind them. Evelyn's escape had consequences. Her father's security team reviewed camera footage and discovered she had driven toward Blackwater. By morning, her father knew where she had been. He did not confront her immediately. Instead, he sent someone to investigate Roman. That investigator returned with a report. Roman Vale had no hidden criminal fortune. He had no secret marriage, no record of betrayal, only one concerning detail. He had once been involved with Daniel. Richard Hart read the report twice. Then he made a decision. He told his security chief to stop watching Roman. Why? The man asked. Richard answered quietly. Because if he is the man I think he is, watching him will only make this worse. It was the first mistake Richard corrected in years. But it was too late to undo the others. At first light, Evelyn's father called her. Come home. She expected anger. Instead, she heard uncertainty. Are you safe? Yes. With him? Yes. A long silence followed. Finally, he said, then be careful. It was the closest thing to approval he had ever given. Evelyn ended the call and stared toward the city. She did not realize then that her father had also received a warning. Someone had sent him the same photograph of Roman and Evelyn. The message beneath it said, Th Irlovi will das Comelias. Richard deleted the message. He had spent too long obeying fear. He would not do it again. Across town, Roman watched the sunrise from the shop roof. He understood the same truth. If he wanted a life with Evelyn, he could not keep running from the people who wanted him to be alone. The battle had begun before either of them knew the rules. The city did not know it yet, but Roman and Evelyn's first meeting had already changed a balance of power. Two people who were supposed to remain strangers had crossed paths, and strangers were harder to predict than enemies. The next morning, Evelyn returned to the road where they had met. The rain had washed away the oil stains and tire marks, leaving the asphalt strangely clean. She stood beneath the broken lamp and realized how easily one night could become a dividing line in a person's life. Before that night, she had been certain that her future belonged to other people. After it, uncertainty had entered her life, and uncertainty was frightening. Yet it was also the first space in which a choice could exist. Roman arrived without knowing she would be there. He stopped beside her motorcycle and removed his helmet. You keep coming back to dangerous places? But Evelyn smiled. Maybe they are not dangerous when you know who is standing beside you. He looked at her for several seconds. That sounds like a promise. It is? Roman did not ask Evelyn to stay that night. He simply stood beside the car until she was ready to leave. That small act mattered. He had not tried to possess her time. He had simply been there. Evelyn kept that first repair receipt. She had no practical reason to keep it. It simply reminded her that a broken thing could sometimes become the beginning of something new. The receipt stayed in a small box with photographs and letters. Years later, Evelyn still remembered the exact sound of the engine that first night. It had not been a beautiful sound. It had been rough, uncertain, and alive, much like the future she was about to choose. The broken street lamp was eventually repaired, but Evelyn sometimes missed it. The darkness had made that first meeting feel private, as if the city had briefly stepped aside to let two strangers notice one another. Evelyn would later say that the road did not lead her to Roman. It led her back to herself, and Roman happened to be there. She remembered that courage had started with a single turn of the wheel. Part 2. Anamanchidan asked Hafoar. Evelyn told herself she would never return. 3 days later, she returned. She claimed she had gone to the garage because the sedan was making a strange noise. It was an excuse so weak that even her own driver did not believe it. Roman looked at the vehicle and said, "The car is fine." Evelyn folded her arms. "Then perhaps I came for the coffee. You hate coffee. I hate bad coffee." Roman raised an eyebrow. "You remember what it tastes like. I remember everything that disappoints me." He smiled. That was the problem. Every time Evelyn saw Roman smile, the world seemed less predictable. She learned his name that afternoon, Roman Vale. He learned hers, Evelyn Hart. His expression changed, only slightly, but she noticed. "You know the name? Everyone knows the Hart name." Her smile disappeared. "I was afraid of that." Roman leaned against the counter. "Why?" "Because people never see me first, then let them look at you." She stared at him. "You say strange things?" "I hear that a lot." Over the next 2 weeks, their meetings became impossible to call accidents. Evelyn appeared at Roman's repair shop. Roman appeared at a charity event she was forced to attend. She found him outside when she needed fresh air. He found her after a photographer followed her down an alley. Neither admitted they were looking for the other. Then Evelyn discovered that Roman was not the criminal everyone in her family described. His shop employed former gang members, veterans, mechanics, and young people trying to stay away from the streets. He spent his evenings checking payroll and fixing bikes. He had a habit of helping customers who could not pay. You could charge them, Evelyn said. I could. Why don't you? Because I remember being broke. She looked at him differently. And you think that makes you different? No, it makes me human. That sentence stayed with her. At home, Evelyn's father introduced Adrian Voss. Adrian was polished, handsome, and perfectly suited to the Hart family image. He was also the man she was expected to marry. I am not interested, Evelyn said. Her father remained calm. You will be anew. The room went silent. Her mother lowered her eyes. Her father finally said, you are enjoying a freedom you did not earn. Evelyn looked at him. Maybe I'm finally earning it. That night, she received an anonymous message. Stig Roman Vale. She stared at the screen. A second message arrived. Ye do know, O Kyo, tau you are feminine. Evelyn's blood ran cold. She went to Roman. He knew she was coming before she entered. Who told you? He asked. Told me what? He looked at her phone. She showed him the messages. Roman became very still. Where did you get this number? I don't know. He took a breath. Evelyn, you need to stay away from this. She stepped closer. Why? Because my past is dangerous. So is mine. Roman looked at her for a long moment. What do you know about your father's company? That it owns half the city? Not what it owns. What it hides? She did not answer. Roman turned away. Years earlier, his older brother had died in a warehouse fire. The police called it an accident. Roman never believed it. The warehouse had belonged to a Hart subsidiary. For 10 years, he had searched for the truth. He had never found proof. Until now, because the woman standing in front of him was Evelyn Hart, the daughter of the family he had blamed, the woman he had begun to love. And she knew nothing about the war that had been waiting for her since before they met. The second time Evelyn visited the shop, she noticed the people Roman employed. An older mechanic named Frank worked on engines near the rear wall. A teenage apprentice called Liam was sweeping the floor. A woman named Nora managed invoices and customers. There were no luxury cars in the waiting area, no expensive decorations, no attempt to impress anyone. It felt honest. Evelyn had grown up surrounded by things that looked expensive because they were supposed to. Roman's place looked valuable because people trusted it. Nora handed Evelyn a cup of coffee. You are the reason he has been in a good mood. Evelyn nearly dropped it. I am not. Nora smiled. Of course not. Roman walked in.
Nora, yes?
Stop. Nora walked away laughing. Evelyn looked at Roman. Are your employees always like this? Unfortunately, I like them. They like you too. The answer warmed her. Outside rain began. Roman locked the shop. Evelyn stood beneath the awning. You need a ride? I drove, right? She hesitated. Do you ever leave this neighborhood? Sometimes. Where do you go? Anywhere people don't know my name? She smiled. I know that feeling. Roman looked at her. Do you? My entire family knows my name.
Oh, that is not what I meant.
For she understood. For the first time, someone had asked about the person beneath the name. She told him things she had never told anyone in her family. How she loved old movies, how she wanted to study architecture, how she once dreamed of opening a small bookstore. Roman told her about Daniel. Not everything, just enough. My brother believed rules were meant to protect people. And you? I believe rules matter only when powerful people follow them too. She studied his face. You miss him? Every day, the honesty startled her. The conversation ended when a black car stopped nearby. Roman's entire posture changed. Go home. What? No. Who is that? Someone who does not belong here. The car drove away. Evelyn noticed Roman watching until it disappeared. She asked nothing. But that night she searched Roman Vale online. The results were contradictory. Business owner, former street racer, local protector, dangerous man, philanthropist, suspected criminal. The more she read, the less she understood. She finally closed her laptop. Her phone lit up. Unknown number will UCL Ivy Stadia Buduai. For the first time, Evelyn realized Roman's danger was not a romantic fantasy. It was real. And somehow, instead of frightening her away, it made her want to understand him more. Roman began noticing small things about Evelyn. She never finished her tea. She read contracts upside down when she was thinking. She became impatient when people interrupted women in meetings. She hated being photographed while eating. Evelyn noticed his habits too. He always checked a door twice. He never sat with his back to a window. He carried spare gloves in his motorcycle bag. He remembered every employee's birthday. None of these details appeared in the newspapers. Together, they formed the man behind the legend. Roman and Evelyn began developing a quiet routine. Wednesday meant coffee. Friday meant a ride. Sunday meant no phones. Neither called it dating. Both knew what it was. They talked about ordinary things. Evelyn told him about a professor who had inspired her. Roman told her about a childhood dog he had named Thunder. She laughed at the name. He pretended to be offended. Those moments mattered because danger was approaching. Their relationship needed roots before the storm arrived. Neither understood that the investigation and the romance were becoming impossible to separate. Evelyn's first trip with Roman on a motorcycle was a disaster. She wore the wrong jacket. She forgot gloves. She insisted she was not cold. 10 minutes later, she was shaking. Roman stopped. You are freezing. I am fine. You are turning blue.
Oh.
I am still fine. He handed her his spare jacket. Put it on. She did. The jacket smelled like gasoline, rain, and him. She secretly loved it. They stopped at a roadside diner. The owner recognized Roman. Trouble? A Roman pointed at Evelyn. Her Evelyn smiled. Has asked. The owner laughed. For 2 hours, they sat beside a window and watched trucks pass. No one knew who they were. It was the first time Evelyn understood why Roman loved the road. It gave people the chance to become anonymous. For a woman whose name had always arrived before she did, anonymity felt almost sacred. Evelyn kept a small note in her phone, "Ask myself what I want." She had never needed that question before because everyone else answered it for her. Now she asked it every morning. Their friendship became something neither of them named. Evelyn began sending Roman photographs of strange buildings because she still loved architecture. Roman sent her pictures of roadside diners because he wanted to know whether she had eaten. She teased him for asking. "You could just say good morning." "Then why don't you?" "Because asking if you ate is more useful." She laughed. Little messages became long conversations. Long conversations became late nights. Late nights became a kind of trust. Neither hurried it. The world around them was already moving too fast. They wanted one thing that could grow slowly. Evelyn realized that attraction was becoming respect. She did not admire Roman because he was feared. She admired him because he was careful with people who had less power than he did. Roman never told Evelyn exactly when he realized he loved her. He said it happened gradually. Between conversations and ordinary afternoons, she believed him. Their love had grown through 100 small choices rather than one dramatic moment. Roman remembered her first question, "Can you fix this?" He eventually understood she had been asking about more than a car. She had been asking whether broken things could be repaired. Roman kept a spare helmet for Evelyn from the day she first rode with him. The helmet was scratched, practical, and imperfect. She loved it because it had become hers. Roman would later say he did not fall in love with Evelyn at first sight. He fell in love with the way she kept choosing courage. He remembered that trust had started with a broken car battery. Part 3 Tichy House off Sisiratsa. Roman spent the next week avoiding Evelyn. He told himself it was protection. She told herself it was betrayal. She was wrong about his reasons, but not about the pain. Every attempt to call him went unanswered. Finally, she drove to his shop after midnight. The lights were off. She waited. Roman arrived on a motorcycle and stopped when he saw her. "You should not be here? That is becoming your favorite sentence?" "Evelyn, tell me what happened." Roman removed his helmet. "Your family and mine have history. How bad? Bad enough that someone wants you dead?" She froze. Roman stepped closer. "I have spent 10 years looking for the person who caused my brother's death, and you think my family did it. I thought they did. Do you still?" Roman hesitated. "I don't know." She hated that answer. "But you look at me like you are waiting for me to become guilty." "No." "Then what do you see?" Roman answered quietly. "Someone I do not want to lose." She looked away. For the first time, his voice did not sound like a warning. It sounded like fear. Evelyn reached for his hand. He let her. The moment lasted only seconds before headlights appeared at the end of the street. Roman pulled Evelyn behind him. A car accelerated toward the shop. Roman shoved her aside. The vehicle crashed into the metal gate and sped away. On the ground was a small envelope. Roman picked it up. Inside was an old photograph. It showed his brother Daniel standing beside a younger version of Evelyn's father. On the back, someone had written Titi Faras never at an XIAD. Roman closed his eyes. Evelyn touched his arm. "Let's find the truth." He looked at her. "Why?" "Because once we find it, there is no going back." "Roman, there has not been a way back since I met you." They began investigating together. Evelyn accessed Old Heart Meridian archives. Roman contacted former employees. Slowly, a pattern appeared. A shipping company had been used to move illegal technology through the city. A warehouse had burned. Daniel Vale had discovered the operation. Someone had ordered the warehouse emptied. Someone had also ordered Daniel silenced. But the name at the center of the paperwork was not Hart. It was Voss, Adrian's family. Evelyn stared at the records. "The man my father wants me to marry." Roman nodded. "And your father signed some of the contracts?" Her chest tightened. "So my father knew?" "Maybe. That is not better." "No." They continued digging. Then they found something worse. Daniel had left a final recorded statement. Roman played it. Daniel's voice came through the old device. "If anything happens to me, do not trust the Harts. But do not trust the Voss family either. They are using the conflict between us." The recording ended. Roman sat in silence. Evelyn whispered, "He knew. He knew there was another player." Woo, Roman did not know, but someone knew they were investigating. That person made the next move. At the Hart mansion, Evelyn's father received a package. Inside was a photograph of Evelyn holding Roman's hand, and beneath it a note, "Ehis Nikomi Ekines." Her father stared at the picture for a long time, then he called a number he had not dialed in 15 years. "Bring my daughter home." The voice on the other end answered. Immediately, her father looked out at the city. "No." He paused. "Bring her back safely." That was the first sign that the Hart patriarch was afraid. Roman had promised himself he would not involve Evelyn. But the investigation forced them into the same room again and again. They spent long nights in the archives. Evelyn learned how to read old financial records. Roman learned which Hart executives had retired unexpectedly. They discovered that several employees involved in Midnight Glass had died, disappeared, or moved overseas within months of Daniel's death. The pattern was too clean. Someone had erased the trail. One night, Evelyn fell asleep over a pile of documents. Roman placed his jacket over her shoulders. He continued working. When she woke, she saw him staring at an old photograph. "Is that Daniel?" Roman nodded. "Tell me about him. He was annoying." She smiled. "That is stole my food. That sounds serious." "I also believe every person deserved one chance." Evelyn looked at the photo. "Did he give Helena a chance?" Roman was silent. "Maybe that was his mistake." "No," Evelyn said. "His mistake was trusting people without making them prove themselves." She thought about her own life. Her father had demanded loyalty. He had rarely offered trust. Roman had done the opposite. He offered trust carefully, and once given, he protected it. That difference changed her feelings. She did not love him yet, but she trusted him. And trust was more dangerous, because it could become everything. They kept investigating until sunrise on several nights. Evelyn learned that Roman's world had rules of its own. Loyalty was earned slowly, promises were treated seriously, and betrayal had consequences. Roman learned that Evelyn's world was not as glamorous as he had imagined. Her father could control her schedule, her finances, even the people allowed near her. She had money, she did not have freedom. The realization brought them closer. Their difference was not wealth. It was vocabulary. He called his prison the street. She called hers family. Both understood the other. One evening, Evelyn asked Roman the question he had feared. If your family had survived, would you still be the same man? Roman looked at the river. No. Who would you be? Maybe boring. She smiled. I might have liked boring. He laughed. Too late. She rested her head on his shoulder. Sometimes love was not about finding the perfect person. It was about finding someone with whom imperfection felt safe. The investigation also revealed an unexpected connection. Daniel had deposited money into a small community account every month. The account supported families affected by the warehouse fire. Roman had never known. Evelyn asked why Daniel had kept it secret. Maybe he did not want credit. They visited one of the families. An elderly woman named Rosa opened the door. When she saw Roman, she cried, Daniel said you would come one day. Roman could barely speak. Rosa gave him a letter. Your brother wanted you to know he was proud of you. Roman opened it that night. The letter was short. You are not responsible for what I could not survive. Lev, Roman read it several times. Then he placed it beside his bed. For the first time in 10 years, he slept without dreaming about the fire. Roman kept Daniel's photograph in his wallet. Beside it, he eventually added a picture of Evelyn laughing at the repair shop. One represented the person he had lost. The other represented the life he had chosen. One evening, while reviewing the archive, Evelyn discovered a handwritten note in her mother's handwriting. It contained only a list of names and dates. Some names belonged to people already dead. Others belonged to executives still working inside Heart Meridian. She realized her mother had been watching the corruption from inside the company. Roman looked at the page. She was gathering evidence and trying to keep me safe. She succeeded for a while. Evelyn looked down. I wish I could tell her. Roman squeezed her hand. Tell her by what you do next. The idea changed the way Evelyn saw the investigation. It was no longer about revenge. It was about finishing unfinished work. Roman realized Evelyn could survive difficult truths. He no longer needed to hide every danger from her. He could tell her the truth and trust her to decide what she would do with it. The archive work continued for months. Each document removed another piece of the old illusion. Truth was tiring, but Evelyn preferred exhaustion to ignorance. Roman agreed they would rather know the worst than be protected by a lie. Their investigation taught them that every secret demanded a cost. The truth hurt. Yet every truth they accepted made them less vulnerable to manipulation. They sometimes disagreed about the past. Neither demanded that the other forget. Healing, they learned, did not require agreement on every memory. Their story became stronger because every revelation was followed by a choice, not merely a reaction. They both understood that beginnings are rarely dramatic when they happen. Part 4 T. Buck Rayar Kabatar. The city celebrated the annual Blackwater Night Festival with racing, music, and fireworks. Roman hated the event. Too many people, too many weapons, too many opportunities for someone to disappear. But Evelyn wanted to go. One normal night, she said. Roman sighed. Nothing about my life is normal. Then pretend. He looked at her. You are dangerous when you smile like that. She laughed. For a few hours, they were simply two people. They ate street food. They watched the races. Evelyn stole Roman's jacket because she was cold. Roman pretended to be annoyed. Then the lights went out. The crowd screamed. Roman grabbed Evelyn. Stay behind me. Shots echoed. People ran in every direction. Roman's crew moved immediately. The attack lasted less than a minute. When the lights returned, one of Roman's oldest friends, Marcus, was missing. So was Evelyn's purse. Inside the purse was a flash drive containing copies of the Heart archives. Roman knew immediately. We have a traitor. Marcus returned an hour later. He claimed he had been chasing the attackers. Roman did not believe him. Evelyn noticed blood on Marcus's sleeve. Are you hurt? Marcus shook his head, but Roman saw the tiny cut on Marcus's wrist. It looked like the mark worn by members of an old underground network known as the Ash Circle. The Ash Circle had disappeared years ago. Roman had believed them destroyed. He was wrong. The next morning, a video was posted online. Evelyn appeared on screen. She was sitting in a chair. Her hands were tied. Roman's world stopped. A masked man stood behind her. Roman Vale, the man said. You have spent 10 years searching for the truth. The camera moved closer to Evelyn. No, the truth belongs to us. Roman's phone rang. The caller ID displayed Marcus's number. Roman answered. Where are you? A voice replied. I am sorry. Roman recognized the voice. Marcus, tell me where she is. I cannot. Roman closed his eyes. Marcus, I did not know they would take her. Roman's voice hardened. Then you should have known better. The call ended. Roman gathered his crew. They traced the video to a remote industrial district. The rescue became a trap. Roman entered the building alone. He found Evelyn in an empty room. No guards, no chains, no weapons. She looked at him. Roman, don't. The floor exploded. Roman pushed her behind a concrete pillar. Smoke filled the room. A man stepped from the darkness. He wore a silver ring shaped like an ash tree. You finally came? Roman raised his gun. Who are you? The man smiled. The reason your brother died, Evelyn stared. Roman's hand tightened. The man continued. And the reason your families have hated each other for 15 years. Roman fired. The man disappeared behind a steel door. A second explosion shook the building. Roman grabbed Evelyn and ran. They escaped through a drainage tunnel. At the tunnel exit, Evelyn finally asked, "Do you know him?" Roman shook his head. "No, but he knows us?"
Yes.
She looked at him. "Then we find him." Roman nodded, but this time he understood something. The enemy did not want them apart. The enemy wanted them angry, because while Roman and the Hearts fought each other, the Ash Circle had been growing stronger. And Evelyn was not merely a hostage. She was a key. After the attack at the festival, Roman could not sleep. He sat in the workshop with the lights off, listening to rain strike the roof. Evelyn brought him tea. "You should rest." "I will." "You are lying, Wes." She sat beside him. "Marcus?" Roman nodded. "I knew his father. He might still be alive." "I know. But you think Marcus betrayed you?" "I think he was afraid." But Evelyn looked toward the dark street. "Fear makes people do terrible things." Roman turned to her. "Does it make them unforgivable?" She thought for a moment. "No." What does?" "Choosing to hurt someone after you know you have another choice." Roman looked at her. The answer stayed with him. Hours later, Marcus called again. He gave them a location, an abandoned railway station. Roman wanted to go alone. Evelyn refused. They arrived before sunrise. Marcus was waiting with tears in his eyes. He confessed that the Ash Circle had threatened his younger sister. He had given them information because he believed he could save her. They killed her anyway. Roman stared at him. Marcus dropped to his knees. Roman did not forgive him immediately, but he offered him a hand. "Get up." Marcus looked surprised. "I don't deserve that guy." "Maybe not." Roman pulled him to his feet. "But your sister deserved better than all of us." The three of them stood in silence. Evelyn realized then that Roman's strength was not his ability to punish people. It was his ability to decide when punishment would no longer solve anything. She admired him more for that than she had admired his fearsome reputation. The attack changed the crew. Before Blackwater Night, people believed Roman was untouchable. Afterward, everyone understood that he could be reached through the people he loved. Roman hated that lesson. Evelyn hated it more. She began learning defensive driving. Roman taught her how to recognize surveillance. She taught him how to navigate corporate politics. They became stronger because neither pretended the other was helpless. Their relationship became a partnership of skills. She could read the boardroom. He could read the street. Together, they could read the enemy. After the festival, Roman changed his rules. His crew was no longer allowed to operate without a communications plan. Every vehicle received an emergency tracker. Every employee had a safe contact. Evelyn called it excessive. Roman called it necessary. Eventually, she admitted he was right, but she made him promise one thing. "If something happens, tell me." He nodded. "I will. Evan, if you think I will panic," especially then. That promise later saved both of them. Evelyn began helping at Roman's shop. She learned to change oil. She learned the difference between 12 common engine noises. She ruined one perfectly good screwdriver. Theo never let her forget it. Corporate queen, defeated by a screwdriver. Evelyn pointed at him. "Your salary is under review." Theo laughed. Roman watched from across the room. He realized he loved seeing her there. Not in a ballroom, not in designer clothes, with grays on her hands. That was when he stopped thinking of her as a woman from another world. She had become part of his. Their enemies expected fear to divide them. Instead, every attack made them communicate more clearly. They learned that secrets protected people for only a short time. Shared truth protected them much longer. The attack also taught Evelyn how quickly a normal evening could become a survival situation. She never again walked from a parking garage without checking the surrounding cars. She learned to recognize cameras. She learned to keep 2 emergency phones. Roman taught her these things without turning her into a frightened person. Knowing danger exists does not mean living in fear, he told her. It means respecting reality. She remembered the sentence. It became one of the principles she later taught at 7th Bridge. Awareness was not weakness. Preparation was not paranoia. It was another form of freedom. Their partnership became the one thing the enemy could not predict. If Roman planned a route, Evelyn noticed the financial pattern. If she saw a legal weakness, he noticed the physical threat. Together, they covered each other's blind spots. After the festival, Evelyn stopped seeing danger as a reason to surrender. She saw it as a reason to prepare. Roman respected the change. He never wanted a frightened partner. He wanted an equal. By working together, they stopped being symbols of 2 rival worlds. They became individuals who could understand both sides without belonging completely to either. The partnership worked because neither person tried to become the other's entire world. They remained individuals, and that independence made their love stronger. They learned that trust was not a feeling that appeared once. It was a practice repeated through ordinary days. The hardest truth is often the one that finally makes freedom possible. Per 5 TTUI and our below it, the answer was hidden in a family tradition Evelyn had always considered meaningless. Every Heart heir received an antique silver pendant on their 21st birthday. Evelyn had worn hers for 6 years. Roman examined it under a magnifying lens. There was a compartment. She blinked. What? He pressed the edge. The pendant opened. Inside was a tiny memory card. Evelyn stared. "My father gave me this. Your father may not know what is inside." They took it to a secure computer. The files were encrypted. Evelyn remembered something her grandmother had said when she was a child. A sentence she had never understood. "Never forget the 7th bridge." Roman looked at her. 7 bridges. The old city had 7. Not anymore. One was destroyed, Blackwater Bridge. They drove there before sunrise. Beneath the bridge, they found an abandoned maintenance room. Inside was a steel cabinet. The memory card opened it. Documents spilled onto the table, shipping manifest bank records. photographs, and one file marquee Project Community du Glace. The project had been created by three families, Hart, Voss, and Vale. Roman stared at the screen. My family was involved. Your brother tried to stop them, Evelyn said. Roman nodded. The deeper they went, the worse it became. Midnight Glass had begun as a private security project. Then it became a surveillance network. Then someone began selling information to criminal organizations. Daniel Vale discovered it. He threatened to expose everyone. The three families turned on him. But there was another name, Helena Crow, CEO of an independent intelligence company. Evelyn knew the name. She advises my father. A Roman's eyes narrow. She's the Ash Circle leader. They left immediately. That evening, Evelyn confronted her father. He was sitting alone in his office. For the first time, he looked old. Did you know about Midnight Glass? He closed his eyes.
Yes.
Did you know Daniel Vale tried to expose it?
Yes.
Did you order his death? She stepped closer. Who did? Her father looked at her. Helena Crow. Evelyn's breath caught. Why didn't you stop her? Because I was a coward. The confession broke something inside her. Then why are you trying to marry me to Adrian? Because Adrian is not who you think he is. Evelyn stared at him. He is working with Helena. Her father stood, tried to keep you away from them. You tried to control me. I thought control would protect you. I never did. Her father looked toward the window. The war between our families was manufactured by Helena West. Then help us stop her. He shook his head. I cannot. Why? Because Helena already controls the board. He pulled open a drawer. Inside was a photograph. It showed Evelyn as a child, standing beside Helena Crow. Evelyn felt the room spin. I have met her before. Her father nodded. She helped raise you after your mother died. Roman had never seen Evelyn cry. That night he did. She stood beneath the rain outside the mansion. I trusted her. Roman walked toward her. You were a child. That does not make it hurt less. He took her hand. No. She leaned against him. Promise me you will not leave. Roman answered without hesitation. I won't. Behind them, someone watched from a parked car. Helena smiled. The final phase had begun. The meeting with Evelyn's father changed everything. Richard Hart was not the monster she had imagined. He was worse in one way. He was a man who had known the truth and decided that silence was safer. He explained that after Evelyn's mother died, Helena had approached him. She promised to protect you. And you believed her. I wanted to. Evelyn's voice broke. You let her become part of my life. I thought she would keep you safe. She was the danger. Her father nodded. I know. Roman stood near the window. Richard looked at him. You hate me, a Roman answered honestly. I did, and now I think you are a frightened man who made terrible decisions. Richard nodded. That is fair. He gave Roman an old key. This opens Daniel's last storage locker. They found the locker beneath a closed railway station. Inside was a motorcycle helmet, a notebook, and a cassette tape. Roman touched the helmet. Daniel had worn it every day. He pressed the cassette into an old player. Daniel's voice filled the room. If you find this, I am probably dead. A Roman closed his eyes. Daniel continued. The person behind the project is not chasing money. They want ownership of the city. The tape clicked. There is one person I trusted. Evelyn's mother. Evelyn looked at Roman. Her mother had been helping Daniel. That changed everything. The two families had not simply been enemies. They had once been allies, and someone had deliberately destroyed that alliance. A handwritten note in Daniel's notebook contained a single sentence. Teach woman IHG Elvis, Kanowski Vertieshig. Evelyn remembered Helena always wearing black gloves at formal events. The mystery finally had a face. At the old locker, Evelyn found a second photograph. It showed her mother standing with Daniel. They were smiling. Behind them stood three younger men, Richard Hart, Victor Hart, and a young Helena Crow. On the back were four names, Tia, Nesaid. Evelyn realized the conflict had been planned long before she was old enough to understand it. Her whole childhood had been built on a lie. Roman put an arm around her. You don't have to carry your family's mistakes. She looked at him. Neither do you. For the first time, the weight became lighter. Evelyn confronted Adrian indirectly. She asked him why he had chosen the Hart family. He answered with a rehearsed speech about stability and tradition. She listened. Then she asked, do you love me? Adrian smiled. I admire you. The difference was enough. Evelyn finally understood he did not want her. He wanted what her name could unlock. That realization made leaving him easier. The secret ledger contained one more clue. Payments had been made to a legal trust in Evelyn's name. The trust had been created before she was born. Roman wondered why. Her mother had planned for her future. Perhaps she had known the family would become dangerous. The trust contained property, funds, and a private letter. Evelyn opened it with trembling hands. My daughter, if the world ever asks you to choose between belonging and becoming yourself, choose yourself. Evelyn read it twice. She understood now. Her mother had not wanted her protected by the family. She had wanted her free from it. The letter became Evelyn's personal compass. The pendant became a symbol between them. Evelyn no longer wore it because it belonged to the Hart family. She wore it because it reminded her that the women before her had fought for choices she was now free to make. The deeper truth about the Hart family surprised Evelyn. Her father had not created every crime. He had inherited a system he was too afraid to challenge. That did not excuse him, but it explained him. Roman also had to face an uncomfortable truth. His family had once benefited from the same system. His brother had tried to stop it. Roman had spent years believing his family stood entirely on one side and the Harts entirely on the other. The truth was messier. Almost everyone had made compromises. Almost everyone had been afraid. The important question was no longer who was innocent. It was who was willing to stop. The old family records also proved that Evelyn's mother had tried to expose the project before anyone else. Her courage gave Evelyn a reason to stop apologizing for wanting a different life. The family pendant eventually became part of Seventh Bridge's emblem. Evelyn wanted its meaning changed. What had once represented inheritance now represented choice. Young people entering the program saw it as a reminder that the future could be redesigned. Evelyn's mother's letter remained beside her desk for years. Whenever she doubted herself, she read it and remembered that choosing herself was not selfish. Evelyn stopped seeing her family history as a sentence. It became a lesson. She could inherit a past without surrendering her future to it. The past remained part of them, but it no longer controlled the direction of their lives. She chose her own name before choosing their future. Part 6T Kenji Siradabas. The Roman's reputation had always protected him. Now it endangered everyone around him. The Ash Circle began attacking businesses connected to his crew. Delivery trucks disappeared. Accounts were frozen. Police raids hit his warehouses. Rumors spread that Roman had returned to organized crime. His allies started to panic. Marcus disappeared. 2 more members were arrested. Evelyn understood the strategy. They are isolating you. Roman nodded. Then we changed the game. He announced that his businesses would become fully legitimate. No illegal jobs, no underground races, no weapons. The decision shocked the city. It also angered people who had depended on him. One night, a group of old associates confronted him. You are giving up the street. Roman looked at them. No, I am giving up the part of the street that destroys people. Evelyn watched from a distance. She saw why people called him king, not because he commanded them, because he took responsibility when everyone else ran. But his decision had a price. Someone attacked the repair shop. Fire destroyed half the building. Roman arrived too late. He stood in the ashes. Evelyn approached quietly. I am sorry. Roman stared at the ruins. Daniel died in a fire. Now this. She touched his shoulder. I am still here. He finally looked at her. What if everything I touch gets destroyed? I am not a building. That is not funny. I was not trying to be funny. He almost smiled. Then the police arrived. The officer handed Roman an arrest warrant. Roman Vale, you are under arrest for arson and conspiracy. Evelyn stepped forward. This is impossible. Roman looked at her. Do not fight them. Roman, trust me. He surrendered. 3 hours later, Evelyn was sitting alone in a courthouse hallway. Her father's lawyer approached. Your father wants to see you? Why? He has something to give you. It was the original Midnight Glass ledger. The final page listed every member involved. Next to Helena Crow's name was another name. Adrian Voss, Evelyn's future husband. She returned to Roman's cell. He listened as she explained. Adrian is not just working with Helena. Roman's expression hardened. He is the one who ordered the attack on Blackwater. We need evidence. We need to make him believe he has already won. Well, Evelyn looked at him. What are you thinking? Roman leaned closer. We'll let the king fall. And then we see who steps forward to take his crown. The plan was dangerous, but Evelyn agreed. For the first time, she understood something. Love was not keeping her away from danger. Love was giving her the courage to face it. The collapse of Roman's businesses happened quickly. First came the inspections, then the lawsuits, then the rumors. Some newspapers claimed Roman had built his empire through violence. Others claimed Evelyn had funded criminals through Heart Meridian. The public loved a scandal. Roman hated the noise. Evelyn hated the lies. But the attacks forced them to work differently. They stopped defending themselves emotionally. They documented everything. Every accusation became a record. Every threat became evidence. They created a secure archive. It was slow and exhausting. Sometimes they argued. You're trying to control everything, Evelyn told him. Someone has to. That is what my father says. Roman went quiet. She regretted it immediately. I am sorry. No, he's sorry. You are right. He sat beside her. I don't know how to be scared without becoming controlling. She took his hand, then learned he looked at her. I'm trying. She smiled. Me too. That conversation changed their relationship. Until then, they had been surviving together. After it, they began building something together. Not just romance, partnership. The distinction mattered. Roman's transition away from the underground world was not easy. Some former allies accused him of abandoning them. Others claimed he had become weak because of Evelyn. He answered by continuing to show up. When a young mechanic needed help, Roman hired him. When an old rival lost his shop in a fire, Roman helped rebuild it. People slowly understood that Roman's idea of power had changed. He was no longer trying to control the streets. He was trying to make sure nobody had to fear them. The day Roman announced his new company, only 11 people attended. 3 had been his oldest crew members. 5 were mechanics, 2 were former rivals, 1 was Evelyn. He looked around. This is not much. Theo smiled. Hood is enough. They raised paper cups of coffee. No champagne, no cameras. Roman later admitted it was one of the proudest days of his life, because for the first time, everything on the table had been earned without fear. As the business grew, Roman became a different kind of leader. He held meetings. He learned taxes. He complained about accounting. Evelyn teased him endlessly. You used to intimidate people. I still do. You just argue with an accountant for 40 minutes about receipts. That is more frightening. She laughed. The ordinary problems were strange and wonderful. There was no blood, no revenge, only responsibility. Roman discovered he preferred this crown. A crown made of invoices, trust, and people who came home safely. Roman did not become gentle. He remained decisive, but his decisions were no longer driven by anger. He began asking a different question before every difficult choice: who becomes safer if I do this? On the first day of Seventh Bridge, Roman placed a simple sign above the entrance. Sikadihan sees welcome. A reporter asked why. Roman answered, because somebody gave one to me. Evelyn stood beside him. She understood that Roman's transformation was not about becoming harmless. It was about becoming useful. He had once known how to survive a violent world. Now he wanted to teach people how to leave that world behind. That purpose gave his life more meaning than any reputation ever had. Roman discovered that leadership could be quieter than fear. Sometimes it meant listening to an employee who was afraid to speak, then changing a policy because that employee was right. Roman's old reputation slowly became less important. Young workers knew him as the man who showed up early, checked every safety rule, and remembered their names. He secretly preferred that reputation to being feared. Roman kept his brother's notebook close. The final pages contained ideas for community projects, and Roman made sure those ideas did not disappear with him. Roman stopped measuring himself by what Daniel could not finish. He measured himself by what he could build now, for people still alive and still waiting for chances. Roman's greatest victory was not defeating his enemies. It was becoming a man who no longer needed enemies to define him. He chose forgiveness without forgetting the people he had lost. Part 7. Fake agent Evelyn announced her engagement to Adrian. The city exploded with rumors Roman remained in jail. The tabloids called him a criminal. Adrian called Evelyn his future wife. Behind closed doors, Evelyn called him a liar. Their engagement party was held at a historic hotel. Helena Crow attended. Adrian smiled all night. He believed he had won. Evelyn played her role perfectly. She touched his arm. She laughed at his jokes. She allowed the cameras to photograph the ring. But beneath the table, she activated a recording device. Adrian spoke freely. He boasted about Roman's downfall. He admitted the warehouse fire had been planned. He said the ash circle would control Heart Meridian within the month. Then Helena entered. The conversation stopped. Evelyn smiled. You seem nervous. Helena studied her. Not at all. Good, the party continued. Later that night, Evelyn followed Helena into a private corridor. You killed Daniel Vale. Helena turned. I finished what your families were too weak to finish. Evelyn held her breath. You manipulated all of us? Of course. While Helena smiled. Because people are easiest to control when they believe they are avenging something. Evelyn recorded every word. Then Helena said something unexpected. Your father never told you the real reason your mother died. Evelyn froze. What did you say? Helena stepped closer. Ask him. A security guard entered. Evelyn returned to the party. She sent the recording to Roman's lawyer. Roman was released 2 hours later. He found Evelyn waiting at the docks. You did it. She shook her head. There's more. She told him about her mother. Roman's expression softened. We will find out. They drove to the Hart family cemetery. Evelyn's mother had died in a car crash when Evelyn was 12. The official report said brake failure. Roman examined the old records. The brakes had been cut. Evelyn looked at him. Helena? Probably. But why kill my mother? They found the answer in a private letter. Her mother had discovered midnight glass. She intended to expose it. The letter was addressed to Evelyn. It had been written 15 years earlier. My dear Evelyn, if you are reading this, then the people around you have failed to keep you safe. Do not trust power. Do not trust family names. Trust the person who protects your freedom without asking you to surrender it. Evelyn began to cry. Roman took her hand. I think she knew someone like me would come. Evelyn smiled through tears. She would probably hate your motorcycle. Roman laughed. She sounds terrifying. For one moment, the war disappeared. Then Evelyn's phone rang. Adrian, his voice was calm. You should have stayed at the party. Evelyn looked at Roman. Why? Because now Helena knows you betrayed her. The line went dead. Across the city, every screen turned black. A single message appeared. The fake engagement was Evelyn's most dangerous performance. She wore a diamond ring she did not love. She smiled beside Adrian. She accepted congratulations. Every photograph made her feel like she was betraying herself. Roman watched the announcement from a private room. Theo asked, You okay? Do you trust her? Roman looked at the screen. Completely? Then why do you look like you want to punch somebody? Because I don't trust the man standing beside her. The plan worked. Adrian became careless. He bragged to investors. He called Roman finished. He told Helena the Harts would soon be under Voss control. Every conversation was recorded, but Evelyn paid a psychological price. At night, she removed the engagement ring and left it on the table. It was only a prop. Still, it felt heavy. Roman called.
You okay, S?
He knew she was lying. Tell me, she exhaled. I hate pretending to belong to someone else. Roman's voice softened. Then remember you don't. She closed her eyes. You make that sound easy. It isn't. What do you do when it feels impossible? I remember your face. She laughed quietly. That is very unfair. Why? Because now I miss you. Roman smiled. Good? For the first time during the plan, Evelyn felt hope. The engagement party became a psychological battlefield. Evelyn danced with Adrian while secretly studying everyone around him. Roman monitored security from a distance. Helena spoke to investors. Victor disappeared for 20 minutes. The Hart family lawyer made 3 suspicious calls. Evelyn began to understand how many people were involved. She also understood something personal. She was no longer afraid of disappointing her family. That fear had vanished when she chose to protect herself. By the end of the night, she knew she could survive without their approval. Evelyn's performance at the fake engagement nearly broke her. She had to hear Adrian describe a future she did not want. She had to smile while Helena watched. She had to pretend not to see Roman across the room. But she learned something important. Pretending was not the same as surrendering. She was acting. She still belonged to herself. That distinction kept her strong until the plan was complete. At the engagement party, Evelyn noticed Helena's eyes. They were not angry. They were pleased. That scared her more. Helena believed she was winning. Evelyn realized the best deception was the one the enemy wanted to believe. She played her part perfectly. When Adrian announced that Hart Meridian would soon merge with Voss International, Evelyn raised her glass. To new beginnings. Adrian smiled. He thought she meant the marriage. She meant the beginning of his downfall. The false engagement ended, but the lesson remained. Evelyn had discovered she could walk into the center of a powerful room without shrinking. She had become the person her younger self would have needed. When the press published the engagement photos, Evelyn received thousands of messages. Some praised her. Some insulted her. Some called her foolish. She ignored most of them. For years, public opinion had controlled her more than she realized. Now she understood something. People could discuss her life without owning it. Their opinions belonged to them. Her choices belonged to her. That distinction gave her a strange peace. She did not need everyone to understand. She only needed herself to know the truth. The fake engagement ended with Adrian exposed, but Evelyn kept the ring for 1 week before returning it. She wanted to remember the moment she had stopped confusing appearances with commitment. When Evelyn finally returned the engagement ring, she did not feel triumphant. She felt calm. That calm was better. She had stopped measuring freedom by dramatic gestures and started measuring it by ordinary decisions. Evelyn became comfortable saying no. It was a small word with enormous power. Each time she used it honestly, another piece of her old life lost its grip. The city changed its opinion of them slowly. That was fine. They had stopped needing applause. Their work mattered even when nobody was watching. Evelyn's greatest victory was not leaving her family. It was discovering that she could love them without surrendering herself. They did not erase the past. They placed it where it belonged. Part 8. Suigoes dark at midnight. Blackwater lost power. Hospitals switched to emergency generators. Traffic lights died. Banks closed. Communication networks failed. The Ash Circle had taken control of the city. Roman and Evelyn stood in the dark operations room of his repair shop. Marcus returned. He looked exhausted. Roman raised his weapon. Marcus, stop. I deserved that. You betrayed me. I was forced. Everyone says that. Marcus nodded. My sister was taken. Roman lowered the weapon. Where is she? At the old power station? Evelyn looked at the city map. The power station controls the emergency grid. A Roman understood. Helena wants the city helpless. A Marcus nodded. And Adrian wants Heart Meridian. Roman gave orders. The crew split into teams. Evelyn went with Roman. They reached the power station through a maintenance tunnel. Inside, they found dozens of armed guards. The fight was chaotic. Roman moved through the darkness with terrifying precision. Evelyn stayed close. She found the control room. Adrian was there. He applauded. You really are clever. And Evelyn stared at him. You killed my mother. Adrian smiled. Helena did. You helped. I was protecting the future. Your future. He shrugged. Same thing. A Roman entered behind her. Adrian raised a gun. One step closer and she dies. A Roman stopped. Adrian smiled. You know, Roman, I always wondered why you were so difficult to kill. Roman answered. Because you kept hiring amateurs. The lights turned on. Police flooded the building. Evelyn had sent the recording before entering. Adrian's smile vanished. But Helena was gone. The emergency grid was restored. The city returned to light. For a few minutes, everyone believed it was over. Then Roman received a message. Uenka button and embar mingimi atttsevt baraiji. He knew immediately. Helena, Roman wanted to go alone. Evelyn refused. No, Evelyn, you promised. He looked at her. I promised I would not leave. She took his hand. Then did not make me leave either. They drove toward Blackwater Bridge. The final battle was waiting there. When the city went dark, panic spread faster than the outage. People crowded gas stations. Supermarkets emptied. Hospitals locked their doors. Roman's crew moved food and supplies to vulnerable neighborhoods. Evelyn used Heart Meridian trucks to deliver medicine. The same company that had once been part of the corruption was now being used to protect people. Her father watched the operation from home. He called her. You were always better than I was. She smiled sadly. You could have been better. I know. When the power station attack began, Roman and Evelyn saw the consequences of Helena's plan. This was no longer a war between rich families. Ordinary people were paying for it. That changed Roman's approach. He stopped thinking about revenge. He started thinking about responsibility. At the control station, Evelyn found dozens of names on Helena's files. Some were politicians. Some were businessmen. Some were people who had been victims. Helena had collected information on everyone. Knowledge was her weapon. Evelyn realized the solution. Roman, we don't need to destroy the records. What? We need to expose them? Roman understood. The truth would remove Helena's power. The enemy had spent 15 years collecting secrets. Now the secrets would become evidence. The system was shut down, but the files remained. That decision would shape the final days of the war. The outage also created moments of unexpected kindness. Strangers shared food. Taxi drivers transported nurses for free. Neighbors opened their homes. Children held candles in apartment windows. Roman watched the city care for itself. The Ash Circle thinks fear makes people obedient, Evelyn said. Roman looked at the candlelit streets. They forgot people can become brave together. That thought became the foundation of their strategy. They stopped fighting for their own names. They started fighting for everyone who had been manipulated by the system. The city blackout lasted only hours. The emotional blackout lasted weeks. People no longer trusted the institutions around them. Roman and Evelyn helped rebuild that trust slowly. They spoke at community halls. They published documents. They answered difficult questions. Some people hated them. Some forgave them. Both accepted it. Truth did not guarantee admiration. It only created the possibility of honesty. After the blackout, Roman and Evelyn opened the repair shop to the neighborhood. People brought candles. Children played near the motorcycles. Nurses rested on old couches. An elderly man brought soup. A teenager brought blankets. Roman watched it all. This is what a city looks like when nobody tells it what to do. Evelyn smiled. Maybe your kingdom was never the street. Roman looked around. Maybe it was always the people. She kissed him. Exactly. When the lights returned, the city cheered. Roman did not. He knew electricity was easy to restore compared with trust. The real work would take years, and he was willing to spend them. During the blackout, Roman saw the best and worst of the city in a single night. There were people who stole medicine. There were others who drove through darkness to deliver it. There were executives who disappeared. There were workers who stayed at hospitals for 24 hours. Evelyn wrote down the names of those workers. Months later, she made sure they received permanent recognition. People remember villains, Roman told her. Then we should make sure they remember heroes, too. She smiled. Heroes who never asked to be called heroes. Exactly. The blackout became a story parents later told their children. Not because the city had gone dark, but because ordinary people had kept one another safe while the powerful argued about control. The city recovered because thousands of small actions followed the blackout. People opened stores for neighbors, shared charging stations, and checked on strangers. The story reminded everyone that systems could fail while community could still function. Roman learned to say yes more often. Yes to hush to rest. Yes to joy. For a man who had spent years expecting disaster, joy required its own kind of courage. During quiet evenings, they sometimes returned to the repair shop after closing. The smell of oil, metal, and coffee reminded them of where everything had begun. Together, they learned that safety and freedom did not have to be opposites when people treated one another with respect. Their love grew because neither asked the other to become smaller. Part 90 Shibraiji Helena stood in the center of the bridge. No guards, no weapons visible. Only rain. You finally came. A Roman approached. Evelyn stayed beside him. Helena smiled. You really believe this is about revenge? What is it about? Control. She pointed toward the city. People think money runs a city. It doesn't. Fear. Roman shook his head. Fear is temporary. Helena smiled. Not when you teach people to live inside it. She revealed the truth. Midnight Glass had never been only a surveillance system. It was a prediction engine built to identify powerful families and turn them against one another. Helena had created both sides of the war. The Hearts, the Vosses, the Veils, every betrayal, every murder, every ruined business she had been watching for 15 years. Evelyn stepped forward. You killed my mother? Wes? Why? She discovered me. Roman looked at Helena. And Daniel, he discovered me too. A Roman's jaw tightened. Helena opened a tablet. Thousands of documents appeared. Your families built Midnight Glass together. I simply made it profitable. You destroyed everything. I proved how fragile everything was. Evelyn realized the plan. You want the city to depend on you. Helena nodded. Exactly. Roman raised his gun. Helena laughed. Kill me and the system activates. A countdown began. Evelyn looked at the tablet. The system was set to release stolen information across the city. Bank accounts, private identities, secret transactions, political records, everything. Roman lowered his weapon. Then we shut it down. I cannot. Evelyn smiled. You forgot something? Helena looked at her. The pendant. Evelyn removed it. The same memory card that had opened the Blackwater cabinet contained an administrative key. Her grandmother had planned for this. The countdown stopped. Helena's face changed. How? Evelyn answered. My family built the lock. Roman smiled. And your family built the key. Police lights filled the bridge. Helena finally surrendered. But before she was taken away, she looked at Roman. You think love saved you? Roman shook his head. No. He looked at Evelyn. We saved each other. The rain softened. The city lights reflected across the river. The war was almost over. Almost. At the bridge, Helena tried to provoke Roman. She spoke about Daniel. She spoke about Evelyn's mother. She spoke about all the people Roman had failed to save. Roman listened. Then he said something she did not expect. You are right. Helena frowned. I failed them. Exactly. But I am done trying to undo the past. Evelyn looked at him. Roman continued. I will not let you decide what the future deserves because of what the past took from me. Helena's confidence weakened. That was the moment she lost. Not when the police arrived. Not when the system failed. When Roman refused to become the weapon she had spent years trying to create. Evelyn stepped beside him. You wanted us to hate each other. She took Roman's hand, which chose not to. Helena stared at them. Perhaps she had never understood love. She understood possession, control, fear, but not choice. That was why she could manipulate almost everyone, except them. Helena's final mistake was assuming Roman still wanted revenge. He did not. He wanted truth. That was harder to manipulate. Evelyn understood it too. Her victory was not seeing Adrian arrested. It was waking up without needing her father's permission. Roman's victory was not defeating Helena. It was reaching a morning when Daniel's death no longer decided who he had to become. They both walked away from the bridge lighter than they had arrived. On the bridge, Evelyn realized something her family had never taught her. You can love someone without becoming responsible for every pain they carry. Roman's past belonged to him. Her past belonged to her. Their future belonged to both. That understanding removed the last pressure between them. They could stand together without becoming each other's prison. Helena tried one last psychological attack. She showed Evelyn a video of her mother's final day. Evelyn watched. Her mother looked frightened. Then she looked directly into the camera. Do not let them teach you to be afraid of your own life. The video ended. Evelyn cried. Roman held her. She finally understood why her mother had fought. Not for a company. Not for revenge. For her daughter. That made the choice at the bridge easier. Evelyn would not let another generation inherit the same fear. Helena's defeat did not erase the damage she had caused. Some families would never recover completely. Roman and Evelyn learned not to confuse justice with pretending nothing had happened. At the bridge, Roman finally understood why Helena had been so effective. She had convinced people that their worst instincts were justified. She told Richard Hart that fear protected his family. She told Roman that anger protected Daniel's memory. She told Adrian that greed protected the future. She had turned human weakness into a business model. Roman rejected that logic. Protection without compassion became control. Memory without healing became revenge. Ambition without responsibility became destruction. The future would require different choices. Roman and Evelyn left the bridge without celebrating. They were tired. They understood that some victories deserved silence. Their first priority was not applause. It was making sure everyone could go home. Helena's power disappeared when people stopped believing her version of reality. Evidence mattered, but courage mattered too. Someone had to be willing to say in public that the story everyone accepted was false. The bridge remained in their lives as a symbol. It had once divided neighborhoods. Eventually, it became the place where they celebrated the city's new beginnings. The final records of Midnight Glass were eventually placed in a public archive. The secret became history. History became a warning. The city remembered the scandal, but the people who knew them remembered the quiet moments between the battles. The city changed because ordinary people refused to remain silent. Part 10, T-Lofty of THR Famayo. The next morning, Evelyn's father resigned from Hart Meridian. He also confessed publicly. The city was shocked. For the first time, the Hart family name meant weakness instead of power. Evelyn expected to feel satisfied. She didn't. She went to see him. He sat alone in the mansion. I ruined your life, he said. You ruined parts of it? He looked at her. Can you forgive me? The Evelyn thought carefully. I can understand you. That is not forgiveness. No. She stood. It is the beginning of it. Her father gave her the final file. Inside was one secret. Evelyn's mother had not died because of Helena. She had been trying to expose someone else. A fourth person. Someone who had disappeared before the war began. Their name was Victor Hart. Evelyn's uncle, Roman, read the file. He's alive. They found him living under another name in a coastal town. Victor confessed. He had created the first version of Midnight Glass. Helena had taken control of it. He had helped conceal the evidence after Evelyn's mother's death. But why? Victor looked at Evelyn. Because I believe power mattered more than truth, Evelyn asked. And now I know power without conscience is just fear wearing a suit. Victor handed over a master archive. The archive cleared Roman's brother's name. Daniel had not been a criminal. He had been the first person to resist. Roman watched the recording of Daniel. For the first time in 15 years, he cried. Evelyn stood beside him. You finally know. He nodded. I spent half my life blaming the wrong people. You had reasons. Reasons can still become prisons. He turned toward her. What happens now? Evelyn smiled. No, we decide for ourselves. The answer frightened them both, because freedom sounded beautiful. But freedom also meant choosing a life without instructions. After the arrest, the city expected celebration. Evelyn felt exhausted. Roman felt empty. The victory had removed the enemy, but not the grief. Roman visited Daniel's grave. He placed the old helmet beside the flowers. I know now, he said. There was no one to answer. Evelyn stood a few steps away. When Roman finished, she approached. Do you feel different? No. Maybe that is okay? He looked at her. I thought closure would feel bigger. It rarely does. They sat together. For years, Roman had believed his future would be defined by Daniel's death. Now he realized his brother would have wanted him to live, not avenge life. That became Roman's new direction. Richard Hart apologized without defending himself. That mattered to Evelyn. He admitted every failure. He admitted every compromise. He admitted that he had mistaken protection for control. She did not excuse him. But she listened. Sometimes forgiveness did not mean erasing the past. Sometimes it meant refusing to spend the rest of your life trapped inside it. Evelyn chose that kind of forgiveness. Roman gave Evelyn one final gift from Daniel. A worn notebook. Inside, Daniel had written plans for a community repair center. He wanted to train young mechanics. Roman stared at the drawings. He was going to build this. Evelyn smiled, then build it. Roman looked at her. What? Finish his dream. He nodded. The first Seventh Bridge project began there. The legal confession became public. Richard Hart accepted responsibility. Adrian's network collapsed. Victor testified. Helena was charged, for the full history was available to the city. Roman read the headlines. He felt strangely empty. Evelyn asked why. I thought winning would feel better. She answered, maybe we were not meant to win. He looked at her. Then what were we meant to do? Eat it. He smiled. That was enough. Their final conversation with the older generation was quiet. No shouting, no threats, just truth spoken aloud. In the end, honesty was more powerful than any weapon they had carried. Evelyn's relationship with her father changed slowly. They did not suddenly become close. They learned how to speak without manipulation. He learned to ask instead of order. She learned to listen without obeying. Sometimes they still disagreed, but disagreement no longer meant war. For Evelyn, that was one of the most meaningful victories. She had not only escaped the family cage, she had helped rebuild the family into something less dangerous. Richard eventually sold the mansion. Evelyn was not upset. The house had represented everything she had tried to escape. A smaller home near the water felt more like the beginning she actually wanted. Evelyn eventually returned to the old mansion one last time. She walked through the ballroom where her engagement had been announced. The room looked smaller than she remembered. She smiled and left without looking back. The old family names slowly lost their power. What remained were the choices people made after the truth became public. Evelyn's father learned to live without controlling the people around him. It took years, but even that was a kind of redemption. Those quiet moments were where their real life happened. The family changed because someone finally admitted the truth. Part 11. Alcalantan Kaswa Raman sold the underground businesses. He kept the repair shop. He opened a legal transportation company. His crew became employees. Some people mocked him. They called him soft. They called Evelyn his weakness. Roman ignored them. But one night, a young man came into the shop. He wanted work. I heard you give second chances. A Roman looked at him. Who told you? My brother. Where is he? Present. A Roman nodded. Then start with me. Evelyn watched. She realized Roman's real power had never been the streets. It had been the ability to give people another road. She started a legal foundation using part of the Hart fortune. She funded scholarships. She opened women's business programs. She helped families who had been crushed by the old system. Her father watched from a distance. He never interfered again. Months passed. The city changed. So did Roman. He smiled more. He slept better. He stopped carrying a weapon everywhere. One evening, Evelyn found him on the roof of the repair shop. He looked surprised. How did you know? You look like a man about to disappear. He nodded. I want to ride north. For how? I don't know. She stepped closer. Are you asking me to come? Roman looked at her. I am asking whether you want to. She smiled.
That is new. What?
Someone asking me what I want. He took her hand. What do you want? Evelyn looked at the horizon to see what is beyond the city. Roman smiled. Then pack a bag. The next morning, the former king of the streets and the former queen of the Golden House left town on 2 motorcycles. They traveled through mountains. They camped beside rivers. They argued over maps. They laughed when the rain ruined their plans. For the first time, nobody cared about their last names. They were simply Roman and Evelyn. And they were happy. But after 3 weeks, they received one letter. No sender. Inside was a photograph. Helena Crow had escaped transport. On the back was a single sentence. Woe and tiar, leaving the city was Evelyn's idea. She wanted Roman to experience life without sirens. He wanted her to experience life without boardrooms. They compromised. They rode north one night. They camped beside a lake. Evelyn burned dinner. Roman ate it anyway. You hate me? She said. I married the food, not you. She laughed. The simplicity of the moment mattered. There were no enemies, no cameras, no family lawyers, just 2 people under a huge sky. Roman told her about his childhood. Evelyn told him about hers. They realized how similar they had always been. Both had been expected to become symbols. Neither had been allowed to become ordinary. Perhaps ordinary was not a punishment. Perhaps it was freedom. The road trip taught them how to disagree without turning disagreement into war. Roman wanted to take the mountain road. Evelyn wanted the coast. They took the wrong exit. Then another. By sunset, they were lost. Neither was angry. They simply laughed. For people who had lived under constant pressure, getting lost felt strangely peaceful. They were finally learning that not every mistake had to become a crisis. One morning on the road, Evelyn woke before Roman. She watched the sunrise. For years, she had believed freedom would feel dramatic. Instead, it felt quiet. No schedule, no assistant, no meeting, no family announcement, just light. She realized she did not need to run anymore. She had chosen where to stay. On the road, Roman sometimes rode ahead. Evelyn never asked him to slow down. She followed. He always glanced back. She always caught up. That became their private language. Neither needed to control the other. Each trusted the other to find the road. It was a small thing. But for people raised in families built on control, it was enormous. On the road, they learned another lesson. A shared future did not require identical dreams. Evelyn could build companies. Roman could build workshops. They could support each other without becoming the same person. The road north introduced them to towns Evelyn had never seen. She discovered that her family name meant nothing there. A mechanic recognized Roman. A waitress recognized neither. Evelyn loved the waitress. At breakfast, she ate pancakes beside Roman while nobody watched. Do you miss the mansion? He asked. Not, he nodded. Do you miss the money? She considered the question. I miss what money can do when used well. Roman smiled. That sounds like you. Dashi leaned closer. And you, I miss having less paperwork. As she laughed so loudly, the waitress smiled from across the room. The road trip ended, but traveling became a tradition. Every year they chose one unfamiliar place. They believed new roads helped them remember that life was still larger than the stories other people told about them. The road taught them patience. Weather changed without warning. Roads closed. Plans failed, yet they kept traveling. Marriage, they discovered, was similar. The destination mattered less than learning how to adapt together. Their years together were not perfect, but every difficult season ended with conversation, patience, and a willingness to begin again. On road trips, Roman still memorized turns. Evelyn still blamed his maps. They laughed because neither mistake felt dangerous anymore. Their home became a place where friends, employees, and family could arrive without fear. The road trip became a tradition they would keep for decades. Part 12, Te Mombi Penti Karkeam. Roman returned to the city immediately. Evelyn followed. Helena had not escaped alone. 3 prison guards were found unconscious. A security database had been erased. Roman understood. She still had allies. Then the attacks began. Not against Roman, against Evelyn's foundation. Someone leaked false financial records. Donors withdrew. The press called Evelyn a thief. Her father was accused of hiding money. The old family war returned in a new form. But this time, Evelyn did not panic. She called a press conference. I will not defend myself with a family name. She presented the evidence. Every transaction, every contract, every donation, the accusations collapsed. Roman stood behind her. After the conference, reporters asked if they were together. Evelyn smiled. That depends. A Roman looked at her. On what? Whether he can survive my cooking? The room laughed. Even Roman. That night, they received another message. Helena was not targeting them. She was targeting the city council. Someone wanted to restart Midnight Glass under government control. Roman and Evelyn investigated. They discovered a political faction led by Senator Adrian Voss's father. He had survived the scandal. He had been waiting. The senator's plan was simple. Create fear, offer protection, gain power. The same cycle. Roman confronted him. You are becoming Helena. The senator laughed. No, I am correcting her mistakes. He revealed his greatest weapon, the city's emergency data network. If activated, it could track millions of people. Evelyn looked at Roman. We stop this now. The final confrontation moved beneath the city where the old Midnight Glass servers remained. Roman's crew disabled the security grid. Evelyn entered the control room. The senator stood waiting. You think freedom is enough? No. She looked at the servers. Freedom requires people willing to defend it. So she pulled the emergency shutdown. The system died. The city remained free. The senator was arrested. For the second time, the war ended. This time there was no hidden enemy, or so they believed. When Helena returned, they were not afraid in the same way. They had already learned what mattered. Evelyn protected her foundation. Roman protected his people. They did not rush into revenge. They gathered evidence. They built alliances. They trusted carefully. The final political conspiracy failed because they refused to fight alone. Former enemies joined them. Old employees testified. Victims spoke publicly. The city's citizens finally saw the entire pattern. The system collapsed not because one powerful person defeated another. It collapsed because secrecy stopped working. When the political faction fell, the city did not become perfect. There were still corrupt officials, still greedy executives, still people willing to sell information for money. But there was a difference. People had learned to ask questions. They had learned to preserve evidence. They had learned not to worship powerful names. That was the real victory. A city does not become free because one villain disappears. It becomes freer when ordinary people stop believing they are powerless. When the last server was shut down, Roman kept one thing, the old warning screen. He framed it. Evelyn asked why. To remember what? Never build a world where one person can turn off everyone's freedom. As she smiled, that is a good rule. A Roman kissed her. We need rules. Only the useful ones deal. The final political hearing lasted 8 hours. Evelyn testified. Roman testified. Former victims testified. The city watched. At the end, the judge said that no company, family, or government office should ever hold private power over an entire population. Evelyn left the courthouse with Roman. Reporters asked how she felt. She answered, free. A Roman smiled. He understood exactly what the word meant to her. The political collapse became a warning studied by universities and businesses. But Roman preferred a simpler lesson. If someone asks you to surrender your freedom for your safety, ask what they plan to own once you are afraid. The political conspiracy taught them that stopping one system did not prevent another from appearing. So Seventh Bridge became more than a company. It became an institution that taught privacy ethics, leadership, and financial independence. Evelyn insisted that young workers understand contracts before signing them. Roman insisted that they understand consequences before making promises. Together, they created a culture built on informed choices. They knew the city could never be perfect. They only wanted to make exploitation harder. Seventh Bridge grew across the region. Roman refused to become its sole leader. Evelyn built a board of independent members. They had learned that systems should not depend on one person, no matter how good that person seemed. Roman insisted every new Seventh Bridge employee receive ownership opportunities. Evelyn agreed. They had seen too many systems fail because all power lived at the top. Shared responsibility created stronger roots. Seventh Bridge survived because its founders accepted that no institution should depend on their personalities. They built something designed to outlive them. Seventh Bridge eventually helped thousands of people. Roman always said the number did not matter as much as the name of the next person who walked through the door. The company became a place where young people could imagine a future without copying the mistakes of their elders. Their company became proof that business could create opportunity instead of fear. Part 13. Chi-chi-chi. A year later, Roman proposed. He did not kneel in a restaurant. He did not hire photographers. He took Evelyn to the same road where they had first met. It was raining. The street lamp was still broken. Roman parked his motorcycle. Evelyn said, "This is where you told me I should not be here." I was right. She laughed. I disagreed. I noticed he reached into his jacket. There was no diamond. There was a simple silver ring. I used to think love was something that made people weak. Evelyn looked at him. And now I think love is the reason we become brave enough to be weak in front of someone. She held out her hand, then asked. Roman smiled. Evelyn Hart, will you choose me? Well, she answered without hesitation. Yes, their wedding was small. Her father walked her down the aisle. Roman's crew stood beside him. The ceremony was held beneath the old bridge. No cameras, no politicians, no business deals, just friends and family. After the vows, Evelyn whispered, "We survived." A Roman kissed her forehead. We lived. But the story did not end there. Marriage gave them a different kind of challenge. They had to learn how to share decisions. Roman wanted safety. Evelyn wanted independence. Sometimes they argued. Sometimes they slept back to back. Sometimes they apologized before breakfast. Love did not make them perfect. It made them honest. One night, Evelyn asked, "Do you regret meeting me?" Roman laughed. Every day. She threw a pillow at him. He caught it. "Because I was happier before you? That sounds romantic." "I know." She smiled. The next morning, they opened their first joint company. It employed former gang members, young entrepreneurs, and people who had been excluded by wealthy corporations. They called it Seventh Bridge. A bridge between the lives they had been forced to live and the lives they had chosen. The name mattered. Because love had not erased their past, it had built a road through it. Roman's proposal was deliberately simple. Evelyn appreciated that. The first time they met, she had been trying to escape a life chosen for her. Now, when he asked whether she would choose him, the word meant something different. She was not choosing a husband because someone had arranged it. She was choosing a partner. That distinction made the wedding feel less like a ceremony and more like a declaration. Two people were standing together because they wanted to. At their wedding, Evelyn's father gave her a letter. It contained only 3 words, choose your life. She folded it carefully. Roman asked what it said. She showed him. He smiled. Good advice, finally. They laughed. Then the ceremony began. No one promised a perfect future. They promised to keep choosing each other. That was enough. Their first year of marriage was imperfect. They disagreed about money. They disagreed about business. They disagreed about where to live. But they never disagreed about the central question. Would they rather be right or remain connected? Sometimes they chose wrong. Then they apologized. That became another kind of love story. Not dramatic. Not glamorous. Real. The wedding ceremony lasted 20 minutes. The celebration lasted 3 days. On the final night, Roman and Evelyn stood alone outside. Fireworks reflected in the river. Roman said, we should probably sleep. Evelyn laughed. Pa neither moved. They had survived so much. The quiet felt almost strange. Evelyn leaned against him. Are you happy? Roman answered immediately. Wes. She closed her eyes. Me too. Their wedding was not the end of their story. It was the beginning of a quieter chapter where love was measured in ordinary acts, checking the locks, saving the last piece of cake, and showing up when the other person had a difficult day. Marriage changed their language. Before, they said, I will protect you. After, they learned to say, how can I support you? The difference sounded small. It was enormous. Protection could become control. Support required respect. Roman had to learn it. Evelyn had to learn it too. Neither always succeeded. But they kept trying. That became the foundation of their marriage. At night, Roman sometimes asked whether Evelyn regretted leaving the life she had been promised. She always answered the same way. I regret that I waited so long to choose my own. Their anniversary celebrations were intentionally simple. Sometimes dinner at home, sometimes a long ride, sometimes no gifts at all. The real gift was still being willing to listen after 10 years of knowing one another. Their wedding photograph hung in the community center. Visitors often noticed that Roman and Evelyn were not looking at the camera. They were looking at each other. Their marriage stayed strong because they kept making room for curiosity. After years together, they still asked one another new questions. The wedding became a memory, but the promise inside it continued every day. Their wedding remained one promise among thousands of promises kept. Part 14, Tiachi Audafti Estoarm. 5 years passed. Roman's hair had begun to gray at the temples. Evelyn had become one of the city's most respected business leaders. Together, they had built schools, workshops, and community centers. People still called Roman a king. He hated it. People still called Evelyn a queen. She laughed. One summer evening, they returned to Blackwater Bridge with their daughter, Clara. Clara was 6 years old. She loved motorcycles. She also loved asking dangerous questions. Mom, were you really scared of Dad? Evelyn smiled. Roman protested. She chased me? Clara gasped. Mom chased Dad only because he was annoying. Roman shook his head. You left out the part where you stole my jacket. You left out the part where you never asked for it back. The Clara laughed. The river moved slowly beneath the bridge. The city lights were brighter than they had been years ago. Roman looked at Evelyn. She looked back. There were scars in both of them. But there was peace too. They had lost people. They had lost businesses. They had lost years. Yet they had gained something neither expected. A family chosen by love instead of obligation. That night, Evelyn told Clara the story of the first meeting. A woman ran away from a palace. Clara interrupted. Was it a real palace? Not exactly. And a king stopped her? Wes, why? Roman answered. Because her car broke down. Clara giggled. And then everything changed. Clara closed her eyes. The story was over. But Roman and Evelyn knew stories did not really end. They simply became memories. And memories became the roads future generations traveled. The old war was gone. The ash circle was gone. Midnight glass was gone. But the lesson remained. Power without conscience becomes tyranny. Family without trust becomes a prison. And love without freedom becomes another kind of cage. Roman looked at Evelyn's hand. The silver ring still rested there. He remembered the first rainy night, the broken street lamp, the dead battery, the woman who refused to be afraid. He understood then that he had never rescued her. She had never needed rescuing. She had simply chosen to stand beside him. And that choice had changed everything. Their daughter grew up hearing stories about the city before it changed. Roman never described himself as a king. Evelyn never described herself as a queen. They taught Clara that titles were temporary. Character was permanent. On the anniversary of the bridge battle, they brought her there. Clara asked why the bridge mattered. Evelyn answered, because sometimes the place where your life nearly ends becomes the place where your new life begins. The Clara thought about that. Then she asked for ice cream. Roman laughed. That is definitely your daughter. Evelyn smiled. She is yours too? They walked toward the car together. Clara eventually learned the full story. She learned that Roman had once been feared. She learned that Evelyn had once been controlled. She also learned what mattered most. Her parents were not heroes because they had won. They were strong because they had refused to become cruel. Evelyn told her, being powerful is not about making people afraid of you. Roman added, "It is about making people feel safe enough to be themselves." Clara remembered both sentences. Every year, Clara asked for the motorcycle story. Every year, Evelyn changed one detail. Roman corrected her. "You made yourself sound more heroic. You made yourself sound less handsome." "I was handsome." "You were muddy." Clara laughed. The past had finally become something they could joke about. That was healing too. Clara eventually became interested in the family history. She studied business, then engineering, then community development. Her parents never told her what career to choose. That was deliberate. When she asked why, Evelyn said, "Because nobody should inherit a cage." Roman added, "You can inherit values." The Clara smiled. "What values?" "Protect people. Tell the truth. Choose your life." Clara wrote them down. Years later, those 3 sentences became the motto of Seventh Bridge. Clara's childhood was deliberately different. She was allowed to make mistakes, change her mind, ask questions, and disagree respectfully. Her parents wanted her to inherit courage, not fear. Clara eventually asked why her parents never forced her to choose a career. Evelyn told her, "Because we know what happens when adults confuse love with control." Roman added, "We will give you advice. We will not write your life." Clara thought for a moment, "Can I still borrow Dad's motorcycle?" Roman looked at Evelyn. "Absolutely not." The Clara laughed. Evelyn laughed. Some boundaries were apparently still necessary. Clara grew into a confident young woman who respected both halves of her inheritance. She liked engines and books. She liked business and art. Her parents celebrated every contradiction instead of trying to fix it. Clara eventually became the first person in the family to reject the word queen completely. She said, "People are not crowns." Evelyn laughed because it was exactly the lesson she had hoped her daughter would learn. Clara eventually understood that inheritance could mean more than money. She inherited stories, mistakes, courage, and the responsibility to choose differently. Clara grew up knowing that love should expand a person's life, not shrink it. That became perhaps her parents' greatest inheritance. Clara's ladder became the sound that reminded them the old war was truly over. Their daughter inherited courage, curiosity, and the freedom to decide. Part 15, TH Kianings on about Yoshi ourself years later. People still told stories about Roman Vale and Evelyn Hart. Some called it a gangster love story. Some called it a business legend. Some called it the story of a street king who married a rich heiress. They were all wrong. The real story was simpler. A man who had forgotten how to trust met a woman who had spent her whole life being told what to do. He taught her that strength did not always mean fighting. She taught him that trust did not mean surrender. Together they discovered something neither family had taught them. Freedom was not the absence of responsibility. Freedom was the ability to choose what your responsibility would be. On their 10th anniversary, Evelyn took Roman back to the first repair shop. The building was smaller than she remembered. The street lamps still flickered. Roman's old workbench remained in the corner. She placed a small box on it. "What is this?" "Open it." Inside was the original pendant, the key that had helped bring down Midnight Glass. Roman looked surprised. "I thought you destroyed it." "I kept one piece." "Why?" "Because I wanted to remember." He touched the pendant. "Remember what?" "That secret's almost destroyed us." Roman nodded. "And truth saved us." Evelyn shook her head. "Not exactly." He looked at her. "What then?" She smiled. Choosing each other after the truth came out. Roman understood. Anyone could love during easy days. They had chosen each other after discovering everything, the betrayals, the lies, the blood, the shame, the family secrets. They had not fallen in love because the story was beautiful. They had made the story beautiful because they refused to become what the past demanded. Roman took her hand. "One more ride." Evelyn smiled. "We're anywhere." They put on their helmets. The motorcycles started. The city stretched ahead of them. No one knew where they were going. For once, that was the point. They crossed Blackwater Bridge as the sun began to set. The same bridge where the war had nearly ended them. The same bridge where their future had begun. Evelyn looked at Roman while the wind moved around them. He raised 2 fingers from the handlebars. She answered with a smile, and they rode on. Not as king and queen, not as heir and outlaw, not as victims of old families, just as 2 people who had finally chosen their own road. And sometimes the greatest love story is not the story of a man who saves a woman. It is the story of 2 people who save themselves, then decide to walk together. That was the road between them, and it would always be theirs. The old repair shop eventually became a museum and training center. Young mechanics learned there. Former gang members found honest work. Entrepreneurs received small loans. A wall displayed photographs of the people who had been part of the story. Daniel's portrait was there. So was Evelyn's mother. Neither was remembered as a victim. They were remembered as people who tried to change a system. Roman and Evelyn visited the center every year. They never told visitors that the building had once been the beginning of their love story. They did not need to. The people who worked there created new stories every day. That was the real legacy. Not the names. Not the money, not the motorcycles, the choices. In the final years of their lives, Roman and Evelyn still rode motorcycles. They rode slower. They stopped more often. They complained about their knees. They laughed at themselves. The city had changed around them. New buildings covered old streets. Young people filled the repair shop. Nobody remembered the war the same way. That was okay. History belongs to the people who survive it. Their story survived because it became useful. It taught people that love is not ownership. Family is not control. And freedom is not something another person can give you. It is something you choose again and again. On their final ride together many decades later, Roman stopped beneath the original street lamp. Evelyn removed her helmet. Still broken, Roman laughed. Some things never change. She looked at the road ahead. "Ready?" He took her hand. "Always?" They rode slowly into the sunset. No enemy followed, no family waited, no secret remained, only the road and the choice to keep moving forward together. On the wall of the community center was a simple phrase, "No oni odelas will you or tour." Visitors often asked who had written it. Roman always answered, "My wife." Evelyn would correct him, "Use." They understood the difference. A single person could inspire. A partnership could build. The city remembered them not as a king and queen, but as two people who turned a history of fear into a future of choice. And every time a young person entered the workshop looking for a second chance, the story began again. And so the road continued, not perfectly, not without grief, but honestly. Two people kept choosing one another, one ordinary day at a time, until their love became less like a dramatic legend and more like a lasting home. The final lesson of their story was never that love conquers everything. Love did not erase death. It did not repair every broken relationship. It did not make powerful people honest. What love gave them was a reason to keep choosing what was right. Years after the final battle, Roman and Evelyn still disagreed. They still got tired. They still made mistakes. But when they looked back at the rainy road where they first met, neither thought about the danger. They remembered the possibility. A different future had been possible because two strangers had been brave enough to stop and listen. And that was enough to change a city. The final image of their story was not a throne. It was a road stretching beyond the city with two motorcycles moving together toward the horizon. No one knew the destination. That was what made the ending beautiful. And when people asked whether the story had a happy ending, Roman and Evelyn never answered immediately. They knew happiness was not a final scene. It was something built repeatedly, like a road that exists because someone keeps repairing it. The road ahead remained open. That was all they needed. Not certainty, not guarantees, just enough courage to take the next turn together. The final road stretched beyond the sunset, and neither Roman nor Evelyn needed to know where it ended. They had learned to trust the journey. And the road remained open, waiting for the next chapter. And every road ahead remained another chance to choose together. Epilogi. Onimortar. Years after the last chapter, the city had almost forgotten how dangerous Blackwater once was. Children rode bicycles along the river. Workers crossed the bridge without looking over their shoulders. The old repair shop had become a place of learning and opportunity. Roman and Evelyn still returned there whenever they could. They would sit together at the edge of the river and talk about everything that had happened. Sometimes they talked about Daniel, sometimes about Evelyn's mother, sometimes about nothing important at all. That was the greatest proof that they had won. They were finally allowed to have ordinary days, no enemies, no secrets, no one telling them what their lives should become, only choices, only love, only the road ahead. And whenever the motorcycle started beneath the evening sky, Roman would look at Evelyn and ask the same question. "Ready?" She would smile. "Always." Then they would ride forward together, leaving the city lights behind and carrying with them the one truth that had survived every betrayal. You cannot choose where you begin, but you can choose who you become. TM'd.